This program is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Alright, what is going on, guys? Jay Shy here with another video, and I'm figure I do another Q&A answering. I stayed up late doing the collections vid, but I figure I wake up early and do this other Q&A. I just don't remember where I put it. Okay, I think okay. So, got another set of questions here, and I figure I'd go ahead and answer them. I already said that. I don't know why I'm saying it twice. But, let me see. We got actually more questions this time. Alright, so the first one is from Simply Dad. He says, I got no questions, just wanted to say, I love you, homie. Also, try editing the comments in the video so it's a little bit easier for us all to read. Okay, I could probably try that. I think I can do that. I think my editing skills can accomplish that feat. Next, let me see. Okay, let's see. Slickety Slice again. I think this is a question, or it's just him commenting on something that I answered before. It says, agreed on the Persona 1 music. The J-pop didn't really fit. It was like two eras of Persona clashing. I'm doing a video on it right now, actually. As for some more questions, would you like to see Atlus remake Persona 1 and 2, the duology? As in full remakes, not ports, with extra content. Personally, I wouldn't want to see this without the involvement of Okada and Kazuma Kaneko, but I've seen a lot of others do that. I've seen a lot of others that do. Okay. Would I like to see a Persona 1 duology, like complete remake? No ports and extra content. I don't think it would hurt, you know, to get a Persona 1 remake and Persona 2. The only thing is, I'm assuming when it comes to Persona 2, it'll be both the games in one, probably retranslated, and with added extras in it. I would love to see Persona 2 more than 1, to be honest. I like Persona 1, but it was Persona... I think Persona 2 was just a little more different, in my opinion. Persona 1 was kind of the same when it came to like Persona games, you know, with kids in high school and stuff like that. But Persona 2, I would like to see a remake of, to be honest with you. With Cozy and Kazuma, definitely. You would probably... I would like to see those guys, but if Atlus ever did it, they probably wouldn't hire those guys. I mean, not hire, but they still work for the company. I meant like to see, you know, the ending of their involvement. I don't think that they would have those guys do anything. Awesome question, dude. Next is Spring Sierra. Again, her questions are really good. I think it's a girl. I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Will there be an SMT Devil Survivor 3? Question mark. Atlus needs to advise their products more. I'm curious how they would do an SMT commercial. Guaranteed they would profit a lot more. Also, I hate that the TCG is only in Japan. I would absolutely buy a lot of those cards. There's a lot that can be done with Megami Tensei brand. It's just not up to its very best potential. Then again, we might just end up with like a Pokemon fan base if we, in parentheses, Atlus, Sega, SMT fans, reached mainstream success, where the fans would demand brand new demons and then complain how unoriginal they are. I'm sorry, I just woke up, so I'm trying to read this as best as possible. Atlus and Sega would probably stick to the same formula, which would get boring. There's a reason almost every SMT game varies in genre. On second thought, we are better off this way in our niche. Okay, so to answer your first question, will there ever be an SMT Devil Survivor 3? Yes, but I don't think it'll be SMT. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if you noticed, but they started taking the words SMT off of all the Devil Survivor games. It'll just be Devil Survivor. It'll be its own thing, even though we all know it's SMT. And I agree, I would love for them to advertise their games better, because it's such a niche game. They probably don't because of all the religious things. They would get too much negative attention. That's probably why they don't do it. And I would love to see the TCG, but I kinda have to agree with you. I think the game will go... I think people would play it and a lot will drop it, but the core fan base will keep playing it. And it might turn into that Pokemon fan base where people would complain, you know. But I mean, I think you have to complain when it comes to TCGs. Only because when you complain, it pushes the creators harder to do something amazing. So, it could work, probably, but I don't ever see it ever getting to like, I don't see it being a positive community. It might be a little toxic. Okay. That was an awesome question. Another question comes from DSoul83. Another person who asks great questions. Let me see. He says, he meant the manga I was working on. Can't wait until it's out. I read Hours on Tumblr. I still need to buy that, by the way. I'm actually sold out. I need to print more copies of my book. Let's see. Are you still selling physical copies? When I print more, probably. I remember you said they were very limited. Yes, they were very limited. I think I didn't print a lot. I printed like 50 copies of that book. Because it's really expensive. Because I was not selling that game. I never received any payments to produce the book. So it was coming out of my pocket. So it's really expensive to print your own book. Also, I meant to say Atlus making an original SMT idea for an anime or movie. A Netflix series would be better. Yeah, but if it were a movie, they could make a trilogy of the same scenario with 3 branching paths. An anime would be something like 3 main characters with law, chaos, and neutral respectively. A Netflix series is a bit more in-depth. You know how certain demons get involved with the plot? Question mark. We could see a main SMT story from their perspective. Things like that, cameos can happen, any of these ideas as well. Or if you want to use an already established source, Atlus could just turn the drama CDs into any of these 3 things. Just throwing stuff out there, Jay. I feel like you're pitching me the idea for me to do it. But, it's weird because I actually thought about teaming up with some people on YouTube to actually make an SMT like animated, but it would probably take too long because I know a lot of people have like their lives they gotta worry about. So, as a Netflix series, it's hard to say, and the only reason why it's hard for me to like really think about that idea is because I keep going back to what they did to Death Note, and it scares me, man. It scares me. I feel like if you really wanted to pitch this idea and you really wanted to make this idea come to reality, you have to have someone who is a fan of the series. Like, I mean, look at the guy who is creating the new Metal Gear movie, and he keeps posting things about Metal Gear, and people are like really, really hyped. I feel like you have to have that kind of passion if you wanted Atlus to do this thing. Because I feel like Atlus is focused on making the games. When it comes to SMT, they're not really focused on creating like a TV show for Netflix or anything like that. But it could work. But I feel like if you ever did something that had branching paths with law, neutral, and chaos, I feel like only the fans would get it. We would understand. But you have to make something that is that makes money. Unfortunately, you have to make something that caters to a broader audience. That's what all the big publishers say. And I feel like if certain demons got involved with the plot, we would understand. We would get it because we're fans of the series. No one else would understand at all, unfortunately. But it's hard to say if it'll work because sometimes things that you think won't work works anyway. So maybe, probably, but I don't see it, to be honest. It's hard. That was a great question, man. That really took me through a loop, like, to really think about. I'm sorry if you're hearing that noise in the background. That's my Steam. I gotta turn that down. Okay, next question comes from the Arrowhead Experience. You changed your name. I don't remember your name being that. I remember it being something different. Because your picture is still up. That's how I know it's you. And he asks, how do you go about making comics? I want to create a graphic novel series myself, but I don't know how to go about it. Okay, I can give you some tips. Okay, so right now, thanks to the last Q&A, I've actually decided to start doing my manga series. But this is like probably the hardest part. Even though I have concept designs of things that I want to do, I don't know the middle. When you tend to make a graphic series, comic book or short story or graphic novel is probably the hardest thing you can ever do. I would tell you not to start there. Do a short story first, like 10, 20 pages, and that's it. But don't make a world too big yet. Start small. This way, when you start small, you can reinforce your story writing. And I got this advice from an editor that worked for Marvel a long time ago. And the steps that he told me was, if you come up with an idea, the first thing you want to do is, most of the time, you think about the beginning and how it ends. That's the thing. You have to come up with an idea of how they start and they lead into that ending. The middle part is always it's always the hardest. The first advice that I can give you is, before you write anything, think really, really, really hard. Like when you're at work, when you're walking down the street, when you're anywhere. Think about the conflicts that your characters or conflicts that they're dealing with can get into in the middle of the story so that it's interesting for your readers to read. If you have like a shonen story or an action comic or superheroes or horror, you always want to come up with a character or characters. They have to have some sort of like stress that they're going through that makes them relatable to the person reading it. So usually what I do is I think really, really hard about where I want it to go. And then after I do that, I write a script. And it depends, because when I wrote Hours, what I do is, because I don't like to type scripts, because I like to have them in my hand, that way I can erase it or, write it down. I'm very old school like that. I like to write it down in a composition notebook. So I have a composition notebook for every story I write. And what I do is I'll write my script for the whole book that I want to do. And after that, after I'm done writing the script, I will draw what is called thumbnails. And thumbnails are, I'll just take like a regular sheet of paper, printing paper, and I'll just draw a bunch of thumbnails. There's little small thumbnails of what I want the pages to look like on sheets of paper. And after I do that, I'll refine them and I'll look them over and look what's wrong. And one of the things I want to do is, after I draw my thumbnails, what I do is I prepare myself for where my word bubbles are going to go, so that it doesn't block any of my artwork, or too much of it. And I can always draw around it. After I do that, then I go into my art phase where I draw everything and all that stuff, and hopefully it comes out the way I want it. When I did Hours, I wrote Hours in like 3 months, I think, because I added stuff to it. And as I was coloring the book, as I was lettering the book, I noticed that some of the dialogue was too short, so I added words. So that's really good to know. But those are the steps I take. So I think about my middles, because you already have the ending and you already have the beginning in your head. You should. So I always think about the middles before I even do any of the artwork or any writing. After I do that, then I write the script, and eventually the script will write itself. After you do that, then you go into your artwork phase, where you draw, you pencil, you ink, you color, and all that stuff. And then after that, it depends whether you're going to do a graphic novel and print it. That means you're probably going to have to use a lot of Photoshop and gauge your pages size right. Or if you're doing a webcomic series, then that's where you have to go in and take pieces of your pages out and put them in like this weird this huge long thing that people have to scroll down. It's really weird. I wanted to get into webcomics until I saw that part, and I was like, I don't want to do that. So I kind of stopped. But yeah, man, I didn't know you was making a comic, man. Good luck with that, man. I would love to read your stories, man. I like reading indie comics. I like reading stories that people create because they're just more interesting, you know. But yeah, good luck with that, man. Can't wait to see it. I would love to read it. If you got a website, I'll check it out. Next is Watanuki's Gaming Spot. Watanuki's Gaming Spot? That's a pretty cool name. He asked 3 questions. Okay, so first question is, what's your stance on all digital future for video games from the perspective of the collector? Man, my vision's blurry. I'm so tired. I went to bed at 4 a.m. and it's like 10. Because I just do that. What's your stance on all digital future for video games from a perspective of a collector? In my perspective, I hate it, only because it's very convenient to buy games digitally, but I feel like as a collector, you know what's weird? As a collector, I feel like I'm preserving some part of history. And a lot of times when I have a game and I'm playing something and my friends come by, they always say, because I collect a lot of weird games. Like, I get my hands on weird things that no one's seen before because we don't sell them here. When I have friends come by and they see me playing this game and they're like, whoa, what is that? I'm like, it's a really good game. And they're like, yeah, it does look good. You know, here, you can borrow it. You can try it out. You can't really do that with a digital game. I grew up in an age where friends would trade games. We would always let friends borrow games. I would always go to like Blockbuster Video every Friday and rent a game. Or I would go to like, you know, mom and pop shops that rented video games. That's the day and age that I grew up in. So when I see like a lot of people downloading digital games and filling up their hard drives with space that could have been used for something else and deleting it later, and then, you know, it kind of sucks. I think I used to actually buy my games digital. I think it wasn't until they removed, if I'm not mistaken, when they removed, I think it was Scott Pilgrim, because I bought that game and I removed it off my hard drive because I didn't have any more room. So I think it was that game. When they removed that off the Play Store, that's when I was like, you know, I think it was that, either that or something hardcore. uh, yeah, Hard Corps. It was kind of like a prequel to Contra, but it had a different name. And I think they removed that game too. And those are two games that I enjoyed, but I deleted because I needed to make more room. When that happened, I stopped buying my games digital, and I started putting them on shelves. It's even more funny that I actually got my wife to see my point of view, where she's like, if I'm like, hey babe, can I go buy a video game? She's like, is it going on the shelf? I'm like, yeah, it's going on the shelf. She's like, yeah, you can go buy it. She doesn't like the idea of buying digital things either, because in the end, buying digital is convenient, but it's ultimately you renting a license. Because I always look at it from a perspective that nothing lasts forever. So there's no saying that Sony is gonna last forever. You know, something could happen, they get bought out, and if they get bought out, we lose everything we just paid for. Same thing with Steam. I mean, nothing lasts forever. I always look at it like that. So from a perspective of a collector, it's scary. But I pretty much have the games that I wanted to play physically. So, but for the future, I'm probably gonna have to I'm probably not gonna buy future consoles if it's gonna be digital only. Probably not. Your second question, I know that took a while, I'm sorry. The second question is, what's the darkest, more depressive game that you've ever played? It maybe is something that affected you as a player in the past. The most depressive game I ever played was Lost Odyssey. That was depressing. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played Lost Odyssey, but Lost Odyssey is an RPG created by the original creator of Final Fantasy. That when he left Square Enix, he made his own company called Mistwalker. I think it's called Mistwalker, right? And he came out with a game called The Lost Odyssey on the Xbox 360. I can't believe it was on that console. A lot of people forgot this game, but it was really good. But it was the most depressing game I've ever played. There's not too many games that actually made me cry during my playthrough, but that game is depressing. Another game that's pretty depressing is Valkyrie Profile. Those are two. That's another game. But the first one that came to my head was Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey is depressing. I would tell you what's depressing about it, but I think it would be better if you guys tried it for yourself, because if I explain anything, it gives away some core details of the story. But try that game; it's really good. Last question is your favorite 3 SMT tracks. Oh, come on, man. Seriously? Okay. First, number 1 on top is Akami Airport from Soul Hackers. Sorry, you guys know how much I love that track. I played it in a lot of my videos. Next would be Persona 1's School Days, I think it's called. School Days, Persona 1. Oh, you said SMT tracks. Can we count Persona? Because that one just popped in my head, because I really like that song. And for the last track, I would have to say what's it called? Because I know it. I know what it is. I just don't remember the name of the clan. It's Manipura from Digital Devil Saga. That would be let me see. I'm just gonna play it. Manipura is one of my favorites too. Wait, you know what? I take that back. God's Wrath, I think it's called, from Shin Megami Tensei's Strange Journey. It is the battle theme. Is it the battle theme? I think. The Fear of God. That's what it's called. Let's see. Let me turn up the volume because I turned it all the way down. That's what. Yeah. I think the battle theme from Strange Journey is amazing. So Strange Journey on Mani Airport from Soul Hackers and School Days from Persona 1. Those are my 3 favorite tracks. It's weird, man, because I bought Strange Journey just because I heard the soundtrack first. And I was like, I'm playing that game because that soundtrack sounds amazing, and it's one of my least favorites of that series, even though it's the more balanced Shin Megami Tensei game. That game is, in terms of dungeon crawling, that game is very balanced and very good. It's just not my favorite. Awesome questions, dude. Next is Lucid in Oniria. Did I say that right? Oniria? Lucid in Oniria. Oh my god, we need diversity in TCG. I don't think Magic needs to die, but I hate that it chokes the market. I'm not disagreeing with that, like, at all. You know what it is? If you've ever gone to like a Friday night Magic, or it doesn't really need to be a Friday night Magic, but if you ever go to like a card shop, I have a local card shop where I go and I compete, or I just play with friends. I actually don't compete anymore because the stress of just TCGs is annoying, and you don't see anything interesting anymore. Everybody just plays the meta. That's why I quit playing in tournaments. You don't see any cool builds of decks. But if you've ever gone to like a card shop and it's like mostly Magic, they're played by people who are in their 40s, 50s, sometimes 60s. They're old. It looks like they don't like change, and they're not interested in learning a new game. Mostly because they found what they like and that's what they enjoy, so there is no need to play anything different. And I think that Magic does a good job of rotating, like, sets. So that's why you don't see a lot of people playing different card games. There is a lot of card games that come out, but no one sees them. Mostly because everybody's playing Magic. And Magic's not a bad game. It's just a lot of people just don't play anything different. Like me and my friends, like my friend James. My friend James plays a lot of Vanguard. He plays Card Fight Vanguard. That's his main game. That's what he goes to tournaments for. He top 8s in Vanguard. And he's really good. But he plays a lot of other games, and I think it has something to do with that age gap. A lot of people who play that game are older, and I think that Magic the Gathering was that game of that period. So I think it came out in 1992 or 3, one of those years. And I didn't really get into Magic until way later, but I know that was the only kind of card game around at that time. I remember there were other things like Pogs and stuff like that, but no one. I collected Pogs because I was an only child and that was all I had. So, but I didn't even know about Magic until way later. So, the TCG community has diversity. It's just that no one's willing to change or try anything new. Because you got like games that play exactly almost like Magic, but I feel like they refined some things that were better. Like, there was a game that came out called Force of Will. I thought Force of Will was fine. It plays exactly like Magic, except the mana wasn't directly in the deck. You had a mana deck where you always drew mana from, and that stopped you from getting mana screwed. Then you got one of my favorites, which is the Final Fantasy TCG. I like Final Fantasy, but I like the core mechanic of you ultimately have cards that are card backups, but they're mana, but in order for you to use some of the things, you have the option to discard cards directly from your hand to generate more. It was like all these other games that, used the Magic kind of formula and refined it. The same thing with Dragon Ball Super. That card game was pretty cool too, and then I just kind of got out of it because that community got real toxic real quick. Because most of the people who played Yu-Gi-Oh! Was playing the Dragon Ball TCG. But I agree. It doesn't need to die, and it's not that it's not diversified. It's just that no one's playing other stuff. Everybody who plays Magic stays in Magic. That's the thing. You get select few of people who are like, I would love to try something different. I was one of those people because I started in Magic. And I just decided to try other things like Yu-Gi-Oh, Force of Will, Final Fantasy, and all that other stuff. This is our last question. Is from Philly CS. Have you played Ogre Battle 64? Also, would you read it if it was a manga? Yes, I would read Ogre Battle if it was a manga. Okay, so let me answer this question. Have I played Ogre Battle 64? No. 64, I think 64 is a port, right? I think it is. I played the Super Nintendo version. I have the Super Nintendo version. The thing is with that game is I haven't played it extensively. And the reason why I haven't played it extensively is because every time Larry comes over, there's 2 games he plays, and every time he comes over, and that's one of them. He plays Ogre Battle, and he plays Seiken Detsu 3 all the time. I've watched this man destroy Ogre Battle, and it kind of just destroys me to the point where I was like, I don't even want to play this anymore because I watch you play it all the time. I like Ogre Battle though. Ogre Battle seems like Fire Emblem meets Final Fantasy Tactics on a larger scale. That's what it seems like to me. You build units and stuff like that. I like that kind of stuff. I've never played the 64 version. I think 64 was a port, if I'm not mistaken. I think it is. I think it's just a 64 port. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. But I have played an Ogre Battle game. Also, would you read it if it was a manga? Probably not. And the reason why is because fantasy is hard for me to get into. And Ogre Battle feels more like a fantasy. I'm not really into fantasy-esque like knights and dragons and games like Dragon's Dogma and stuff like that. Like that era of things, I've never really enjoyed. And the weird thing is, I don't know why. I don't know why I've never enjoyed it. I guess it's just a thing. It's a weird thing that I have a problem with, and I don't know why. Oh wait, no, this is something completely different. Anyway, let me see. But to answer your question, yes, I have played Ogre Battle 64, and I probably wouldn't read the manga, only because of the fantasy thing. It's just not my thing. You know what? How about this? I probably would read the manga if it dives into that gritty reality of what war was like in that age. I would probably read that. If it was like Berserk, it didn't like sugarcoat anything, because like I would never read like a Fire Emblem like manga. And I feel like Ogre Battle would be like a Fire Emblem manga. That's probably why I'm thinking about it, and I probably wouldn't do it. But if it was like really gritty, like Berserk or something like that, I would probably read it for sure. Anyway, I think that's the last of my questions. Yeah. So that was the last of the questions for the Q&A part 2. Oh, this is part 3. This is part 3. So that was the last. So you guys are asking a lot of cool questions. If you guys have any more, feel free to leave them below, and I'll try and get to them as soon as possible, promptly. I have another video I have to record. I have to do that part 2 of the PlayStation 2 stuff. So, alright guys, till next time, I will see you again. Peace.